So the real question is, can I figure out what I need to do with my life and what the potential of earnings are using generative AI? Well, stay tuned. We're going to look at 3 different tools to do that: ChatGPT, Copilot, and Gemini. So let's jump right to this. All right, so we're asking it a question, and I've asked the questions already, but I'm going to highlight down through them. So can you help me choose a major in college that pays, what jobs will pay well from 2030 to 2070? So here it gives us an idea of what those are, right? And then with ChatGPT, we can continue to dig a little deeper, right? So what are the earnings for this career, right? And then it kind of maps it out for us, and it keeps it in the same order. Notice here we have 1 through 6, energy 6. It's put healthcare up, but it didn't sort this based on salary per se. It just kind of gave it to us the way it is, and you can see the numbers there. Next question we asked it to kind of get it to continue to feed is, what fields will continue to increase in salary through the next 40 years and by how much? So here, of course, it gives the disclaimer always, and it's true. How can you really do this, right? But it's giving it a try. And ChatGPT, remember, could be a couple years behind with its data. So we're going to look at Gemini and Copilot and see that. But salaries in the field increase by considerable amounts, potentially doubling over the next 40 years. So healthcare, you can see that, of course, seeing steady salary increases. She can kind of see these different careers. Which fields will be most conducive to a relaxed or remote work environment? Then again, it's still pulling on the same thread. Now, I don't remember us having accounting and finance. So that was a new one that it threw in, but it's keeping most of them in there, as you can see right here, consulting, etc., and their salaries. So sometimes with ChatGPT, if you don't ask, so which fields would be most conducive to relaxed or work environment, we could have said, and their salaries, and then we would have gotten this, but we didn't, so we just said, and their salaries, okay? Because we want to make the experience as much like talking to the generative AI as possible. Let's look at Copilot, see what it does. So here with Copilot, so it gave some things, some career fields I'd never heard of: a wind turbine service technician. So I'm not really sure where some of these came from, but let's continue through. What are the projected earnings from each for my career? Now notice we asked it, and it gave the same ones that it gave here on top, so that's good. Copilot sometimes wanders around, but it looks like it's staying focused here. Which fields will continue to increase in salary over the next 40 years? So here it's given us some projections, right? For a nurse practitioner, 45% increase. Physicians, etc., etc. Now, are all of these absolutes? They're not absolute. So every circumstance, and there's lots of caveats in here, but it gives us a good idea. Which fields will be most conducive to remote? And then it kind of gives us those same fields that we've been talking about and their salaries, and then it gives us those salaries again. So you can see that it does a pretty good job kind of keeping us in line with what we want to see. Let's go ahead and take a look at Gemini and see what it does for us here. Okay, so Gemini, we're asking it to pick a major for us: technology, healthcare, sustainability, human interaction. We're seeing this, right, consistent across all the AI engines. Now it's telling us a little bit more, and I like this about Gemini, that it gives us a little more detail. Sometimes I'm not crazy about the information Gemini gives, but it does often give us more like reasons for its decision. Sometimes you'll ask it a question and it'll come back and say, hey, look, this is what I use to evaluate that question. Is that right? So it's good. It's good. What are the projected earnings for each of the career? So here it gives, and then it gives us some links to do some research on the topic ourselves. That's pretty handy, right? And it breaks it down. Notice it gives us quite a bit in this technology field, healthcare. So it's kind of pulling out, we're asking it in what is the technology field, which it was just referring to, and the others just refer to it as technology. But here it's actually breaking it out for us in subsets, telling us what's going on. Plus, now it gives us all of the sources in which it pulled that data. So this is a key thing to note when it comes to generative AI. Remember, generative AI is not pulling from one source like a Google search. Now, Google search does a great job at reaching into multiple sources. Don't let me steer you away from that. But here we're getting actual other sites that it's linking to and pulling this data. It's pretty impressive. Which fields will continue to increase in salary? So we can read through this and see which one. And promising fields, right? And things that are affecting salary growth. And gives us some other foods for thought. All right, and which ones will be most conducive to remote work? All right, and then they go in, no surprise on what we're seeing there, and their salaries. So here, it's nice that it breaks it into a table format for us to look at, which is pretty neat that it did this. So you can see here all of the fields there, and then of course it gives us their disclaimer. And that's really it. We've looked at the three generative AI platforms, and we've really looked at what a job, or how we could make our job selection a little bit better. And the nice thing about this is we're not doing a lot of research ourselves. This literally took me about 5 minutes to come up with all this information. I could save this information. I can export this information. I can drop it into Evernote if I want to. All of that is really nice because we can take and look at this and do a comparison for ourselves. There are other values that we did not search on, and we're going to do one last one before we go, and we're just going to say quality of life. Now, this will be an interesting question for the AI to answer, because now we're really asking it to make some personal decisions to come up with an answer. So it's going to give us some quality of life general topics: health, finance, work-life balance, safety, fulfillment, etc. And we're going to say break down by career. If I could type, we'd be able to. Okay, let's see if it takes that. Let's say field. Okay, all right. So break down by field, and we're going to say break down by field. All right, and notice I got an A in there, but let's see what it does, and then break down by field. Okay, so all of these, so here, it's good. So Gemini did a great job, right? Broke it down by quality of life based on different factors, high and low risk, and then it did it for all of them. This is really quite nice. So now you can get an idea of what it is, the type of environment, and what it is that you're going to be doing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here, we also asked it to do that, but when we said break it down by field, it meant the hourly wages. That's what it thought. So kind of missed the mark. Copilot can be really strong, and sometimes it can just really miss the mark completely. Here, did the same thing. Great product, output, satisfaction, work life, right? Access to amenities, cost of living. It's really terrific. So Gemini, ChatGPT certainly won this bake-off, and they're both doing a great job. And if you need to use generative AI, remember you can use it in all areas of your life. Just don't be completely dependent upon it. It's just taking intelligence from lots of information that it's ingested. It's not the absolute truth. Use other means by which you find absolute truth in your life.